Hey guys, Darren Kelly, coach of Wise Pods, and welcome back to another captain's episode. Heading into round 13, the second week of the buys, we're here to look at who we are captaining this week. I think this probably video is pretty redundant. I think we all know who we're going with. These two that we're going to talk about are pretty highly owned, but we'll do it anyway because we do it every single week. So, quickly looking at how I went last week, was 79th overall in the week. Scored 18-13. Pretty solid overall. Probably a bit disappointed with Max Gorn there at number 2. And there's always someone that needs to drop out of their 100 in my top 5. So that was Dane Zorko last week. So is what it is. But overall, sitting in a pretty decent spot in 27th overall this season. But let's get into this week's picks. Number 1, I don't think it's come as any surprise. It is Tristan Cherry. Off that massive score he had last year with a 168 against West Coast Eagles, it's by far the best matchup. We've seen some massive scores against them so far. Max Gorn, 158. Rowan Marshall, 158 as well. So Cherry, it's looking like a 150 plus for you, son. So it's going to be a pretty high bar to set for as a VC score, who is probably the next man I'm going to talk about. But yeah, it's going to be a very big question later on in this week. Is a 130 going to be enough for you to take? Do we have to increase that line to a 140? Because this man could be on for something chronic. So it's a tough call. I'm personally thinking shoot for the stars, especially in my position, being a bit further back. But I could understand if you were in a much better position fighting for the car or fighting for a hat, then you may want to play a bit more conservative. But balls to the wall, I think Tristan Cherry is a very, very safe captain option at number 1 there. So yeah, easily number 1. Number 2, next man who a lot of people, 70% of the competition have and has been the number 1 player in the competition so far this season is Bailey Smith. He is up against the number 1 matchup for midfielders in the last 5 matches. That is the Gold Coast Suns. Obviously, his form has been elite in the last majority, this first half of the season. Let's be honest, he has been unreal. So, obviously, he went that big 147 for us last week. So, I'm expecting very similar realms from him this week against the Gold Coast Suns. So, we've seen some pretty big scores against Gold Coast Suns in recent times as midfielders. Nothing amazing. Tom Latorre went 40. Noah Anderson, sorry, not Noah Anderson. Andy Brayshaw at 113 last week. Jack Steele 126 the week before. Jai Newcomb 123. There's a load of scores here that are all very decent scores, but not a huge amount of ceiling scores. So hoping for a massive one for here. I think Bailey's just in a different kettle of fish at this point in time. He just racks up the pill like no other in that midfield. So he's getting it done every single week. So I'd probably be looking at doing a BC on Bailey Smith in that Saturday game and then rolling into Cherry later on that day with Cherry there. So again, probably I'll have a line of 140, I'd say, for both of them. So it's going to be a very tough call, I would say. So, but they're two very comfortable 1 and 2s, and I think that's pretty standard across the competition in this challenge. So I'm not going to try and stray away from that too much. But to get to ones that maybe you don't have one of those players for some unknown reason, my number 3 is the likes of Max Gorn. Now, this one came as a bit of a surprise to me because I thought, Collingwood matchup, pretty tough. Dais Cameron is a pretty tough matchup typically. But Max Gorn does not give a shit. He actually loves this matchup. He's played 3 games against Dais Cameron as a solo ruck the last 3 games, and he's gone over 100 every single time with scores of 148, 106, and 126. And that 106 was a very low ruck contested game, so that definitely would have been a lot bigger. It was the last game of the year, so I can forgive him for having a bit of a lackluster game when your season's done. It's the last game, and there's nothing really to prove. So I'm expecting him to have another very decent score and is a very viable captain option there. He is your C option though because he does play the last game of the round, which is on the Monday. So yeah, you could even have a stab in the dark of going Tristan Cherry as your VC, and if that goes wrong, then rolling to Max. So that could definitely be a play for you as well. But yeah, that's it. Number 4, I've got Harry Sheezer, which probably comes as a bit of a surprise. I'm backing this absolute fantasy gun to go. Fuck the fantasy community. I am him, and I am just going to rack up a 120 plus against the West Coast Eagles. Even in this half forward role, he does not give a shit. He knows how to find the pill, and he demands the ball from his teammates. So he is probably going to have plus 10 marks, probably kicks 2 goals, has 30 disposals. So I'm expecting Harry Sheezel to put the 2 fingers up and just go fuck you. So he is in my top 5. Then number 5, I have no other than Nick Dayos, for all the same sort of reasons. Up against Melbourne, they are not. They're a pretty decent matchup for midfielders. We've seen some pretty decent scores against them in the past. You know, Zach Merritt 134, Bailey Smith 127, Noah Anderson 117, Matt Rao 129 as well. So there's plenty of bloody scores that you can look at against them. We know how easy they give up marks, so I'm expecting Nick Dacos to get that same sort of treatment. In his scores previously against them, he had a 62, which was a sub-injured score early on last year, where he played 3/4 of the game and then he got subbed out. So it wasn't on track for anything amazing anyway, but it was playing injured. I can't remember specifically what from, but yeah, it wasn't great. But then he finished off the year with a 157 in round 24 last year. So he does love this matchup. So again, expecting him to continue his hot form that he's found and go massive again. So he's another very viable captain option. But I probably prefer Max Gorn in that match on Monday instead. So that is my top 5. I guess to finish off my rest of the top 10. I did have Noah Anderson at number 6 here against the likes of Geelong. Now, he scored a 142 against Geelong last year, so he does love that matchup. Yes, it's at GMHBA, and there's potential a tagging option coming to his way. You know, Mullen, there's always a chance that that's going to happen, but it's just whether they in Geelong think that he is enough of a threat that's going to be locked in. I could see a world where they don't bother at the start of the game and they just let it run, and then the potential, if he starts to get off the chain, then they could move him on him at some other stage. So, a bit more risky pick, but I do expect him to go quite well as a non-owner. Number 7, I have got the likes of, where is he? Max Holmes. Obviously, same matchup as Bailey Smith. Number 1 matchup for midfielders. Only scored the 106 against them last year, but I think Max Holmes has taken his game to a new level this year. Just with a bit more freedom with Bailey Smith in there has definitely helped him improve. And his last 2 matches have shown that, that he's absolutely loving it. So I'm expecting him to go well. He's actually averaging quite well at GMHBA as well. I think both him and Baz are averaging extremely well there. So again, I'm expecting him to go quite well as a matchup there. Number 8, Dane Zorko. He seems to be in the top 10 every single week just because of how easy he seems to rack up the ball. He scored a 104 and a 109 against Adelaide last year on Friday night under the lights at Adelaide Oval. Definitely could be a viable option. Adelaide have been a bit of a tougher matchup overall across every single line. But we did see last week that a lot of players did score quite well, even in a thrashing, right? So wouldn't be surprised to see Dane Zorko just rack up the pill with no accountability there. Jordan Dawson in the same game, I expect to go quite well. Brisbane are a bit of a tougher matchup for midfielders, specifically in the last 5. I think they're the 4th hardest at the moment. But Jordan Dawson does like to play the Brisbane Lions at the moment. He scored a 118 against them last year. Did have a 57 in there. I think he got thrown forward. He only had the 13 CBAs, where the rest of the team had quite a few more. So he got thrown forward in a bit of a makeshift role. So I wouldn't be thinking about that one too much. But we've seen some pretty decent scores, even a 128 from Jai Caldwell last week against the Brisbane Lions. So I think we all know, I think Jordan Dawson's one of the better midfielders in the competition. So if Jai Caldwell can get it done, Jordan Dawson can as well. So expecting a decent there for him if you wanted to go with an early BC on the Friday night. And to finish off the top 10, I have gone with Chad Warner as my number 10. Got the Richmond matchup, so again, taking advantage of that huge matchup there. We know Richmond love to give up plenty of points. We've seen a lot of massive 120s against them so far this season, even a couple 140s. Chad Warner has shown us that ceiling from him previously. He's very up and down. I do think this could be his week on the up, and it could be a 130 plus from him. Playing with a lot of swagger at the moment, hitting the scoreboard, and just doing a lot of the good stuff. So expecting him to have another big one. So hopefully, as an owner, he goes well and repays that bit of faith after a bit of a down week last week. I guess the person I have left off that is on here is Marcus Bontempelli. Obviously, a huge trade and target this week for a lot of players. I just don't see a massive avenue for him to get a huge amount of points. I do think Hawthorn will come with a bit more aggressiveness this week after a bit of scrutiny in the media with how poor their tackling pressure has been. They've definitely brought the mouth guards to training this week, so I'm expecting a bigger response this week against the Western Bulldogs. So I'm not sure if he's going to have that ceiling of a 120 in him. I do, again, still expect him to get a solid ton, but not massive scores like we're looking for a captain option. So hence why he's not in my top 10. Nick Martin's probably unlucky to miss out after his amazing run of form. We know how good he has been in that midfield recently. So yeah, unlucky to miss out, but just so hard to read what Carlton are doing off the bye. Will they look to do anything against Nick Martin? Is anyone going to be able to run with him? If anyone, it may be a Sam Walsh who has that running capacity to have that gut running. I don't see a George Hewitt being able to run with him at all. So I do see them potentially putting a bit of work into him just to neglect his impact a little bit. So don't not saying he's going to go back, but yeah, I'm just not sure how I feel about it in terms of captaincies. Like I said, he could definitely go well, not lying, but I just think I have more confidence in these guys. Lockie Whitfield, Port Adelaide, off the bye, should be a bit more refreshed. Hopefully with a bit of a game plan to shut down Lockie Whitfield and Lockie Ash back there. His role still up in the air a little bit. Played the first half as a forward and the second half as a backman last week. So be interesting to see how that sort of plays out in this matchup. Who Port Adelaide are typically a tougher matchup. Whether they return to that sort of form or not will be seen. But I don't know. I'm not hugely confident on that matchup. Isaac Heaney definitely could be part of the top 10 as Chad Warner is. I think I just have a bit more confidence that Chad Warner has a ceiling that we're searching for as a captain option. But probably Heaney has the consistency. So I don't mind him if you've got him. Zach Merritt just misses out. Just that new halfback role, I need to sort of evaluate a bit more whether that's something that needs to be seen a bit more. I'm not super confident on it just yet. So he's not in there. I'll skip quite a few now. Josh Dunkley is the only other one I sort of had on my notes here that he scored a 140 and a 114 against Adelaide last year. So he definitely deserves to be part of the top 10, but sending a bit of a message as an honour. I need him to respond and need him to return to some form. I know McCluggage is absolutely killing it at the moment, and McCluggage probably deserves to be part of my top 10 as well, but any of these midfielders at Brisbane could go big at any point. So it's super hard to just pick one and trust it in the captain. So bit of a message there for Josh Dunkley. Do better and return to some form with a decent matchup. So that is my captain. So hopefully you got some of that. Just quickly finishing off the video. Obviously I've said what I'm doing. I didn't have this up ready to go, but I will be going Bailey Smith as my VC on that Saturday game. So that is Saturday at 3:45 Australian SA time. I can't even say the line. And then I'll be rolling into Cherry on the Sunday. So yeah, again, probably a 140 line. I'm expecting big things from Cherry. Like I said, Gorn and Marshall both were able to go 150 plus, nearly hit 160s. Cherry is probably a better fantasy scorer than both of them. So I'm expecting big things this week. So some huge scores expecting this week. So it should be a pretty big week overall. Hopefully we can hit those nice 2,000 scores this week. But some final thoughts, I guess, for the round. Keep up your looping. While we probably have a lot of players that are willing to play this week and available to play. Obviously, having very minimal people on the bye, only 2 teams, is still keep up your looping because you want to maximize those scores on field where you can. I know a lot of people will just be like, fuck it, throw away, and don't worry about it because you've got your best 18 sorted. But it can be very useful just to get those pop scores that potentially are going to come through from these rookies every now and then because every score counts, right? I guess the other news was Tom McCarthy is not going to debut this week, so I'll have to look to jump off him to another rookie. As far as who I'm looking at, it's a bit tricky because I don't have a huge amount of money available. So it could be a Will Hayes, but I have no confidence in his job security. It could just be a 1 weeker. Well, it could be a bit longer than that, just with the likes of Lockie Schultz out for an extended period of time with an injury, so he could get a bit of a run, but I'm not super confident on that. Caleb Mitchell, if he's named, is potentially the other one I may go to, but again, job security. What are Sydney doing? They're throwing a few magnets around with their team, so we'll see how that sort of plays out. Johnson's the other one I looked at as well, with a decent job security back there. Otherwise, I'll look at whoever's debuting and see if they have decent enough scoring capacity, and I may go there. So wait for team selection, which will be coming out in the next hour or so. So we'll see how we sort of eventuate with that. But yeah, hugely unfortunate that that didn't come through. Besides that, I don't see my trades changing unless something dramatic happens. Any other thoughts? I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Just fingers crossed. Hopefully, I'll have a decent week. Just more of a more of a selfish personal thing, honestly. I am slightly weaker on this buy, so sorry, slightly stronger on this buy because I have less premiums, only having the 2 premiums in Nasai and Sinclair, whereas a lot of people may have a Brayshaw and a Marshall. So I'm expecting to have a bit better of a week this week overall. And then maybe I'll come back to the pack later on in the buy. So fingers crossed that comes true. If I don't have a great week, then it probably isn't great signs for how my buy structure is played out. So we'll see how we go. But all the best, guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy fantasy. If you're going away, try and get to your phone whenever you can to just keep checking on those scores. But I know a lot of people go away on these long weekends, as I am myself, going away to the river. So I will see you guys probably Tuesday night, I'll say. Maybe Monday night, but more than likely Tuesday night following the Monday game. So stay tuned for that, and I'll catch you guys next week. Cheers, guys.